My name is Francisco Juncan. I am an industrial designer. I work as a program director of the School of Design and a managing director in Machete Gallery. And I also work as a consultant for different companies and firms and designers. Well, I started several companies or several design studios, but currently I just have one that it's an art gallery called Machete. Well, I probably will speak from the start. I started the first studio when I went out of the university. It still existed. I'm not part of it anymore, but most of them still exist. I think some of the knowledge that I got, honestly, I got it mostly from working experience outside the university. I think the university knowledge it got me well, but it was more into technical knowledge, and most of the business part and most of the managing part, accounting. I mean, linking all the parts of a company. I acquired them by working before. Well, I think that depends also which kind of company or you start. At least, for example, the experience I have, which is media, advertising, design, and art, network is really important because most of the clients basically know each other. I mean, even if we think is maybe we perceive it as they're big, consolidating like the market locally, it requires a lot of PR. That's not one of my core, let's say, responsibilities in the business, but maintaining them it is. So I think how I solve it, I basically associated with somebody that had a strong network connection, and I developed mostly network connections in managerial level, let's say most industry to industry, not based on customers. But I think it's crucial either if you get it from contacts you already have, which is a great start, or you look for them even via digital now. It's super easy now. It's considering energy is spent in the project. When you start the project, I think basically you spend more energy than what you get from it, like a retribution. Speaking about like economic, how much time you spend. I mean, there's two time of time you spend. The time you spend basically thinking and reflecting and getting information to make decisions, and the actual volume of work that you have. I will say it's a whole day work in both sides. I don't think it's a question just of time. I think it's a question of how productive you are in the time. And at the start, let's say you are learning a lot of stuff. So let's say how you are learning, it takes you a lot of time to learn new things or to react on certain things. Once you start getting experience and taking decisions because you already have been introduced to these problems before, you solve them in different ways, it's much faster. But let's say I started spending the whole day maybe thinking about the decision. Now I have more work, but I do it in less time because I'm more productive. I think being committed, it's for me at least, is an intrinsic motivation. I mean, you start your company, you start doing something because you want to do it. And if you really want to do it, you're gonna basically strive, but that's not enough. I mean, one thing, it doesn't mean it's gonna become something productive. So what I will say, compromising to that, I think it's a lot of self-motivation, and then once things start running and you start having like a team, then having a compromise with the team helps you a lot into building perspective, because at the start maybe it's just you, your partner, or you, and you start making all these the things yourself, but it's just a one-man job, so you don't rely on other people taking decisions. When the companies or the organizations start to grow, then you have to make people compromise to smaller things that serve like a bigger thing. So I think you become less selfish in all the present decision making, because now there are other people involved and you care also for their interests. So but I think that's what makes the companies start to grow, that you start linking those interests. Having a partner is the most difficult part. Not having it, I mean, once you have it, it's easy. But finding the right partner. I had probably 4, 5, 6, I don't know now, but projects that I started with a partner, and most of them failed. And I think most of them failed because interests change, and people change a lot when their interests are met, and maybe they have another idea of that. They have another idea of how much their job represents to the company. Some of them have an idea that they do a lot, even if we measure productively it doesn't, or because they started the idea. I mean, there are a lot of things that had nothing to do with data and things that are actual. I think partnerships start to grow when you start knowing what you actually want and what you actually expect from that outcome. Budgets are very tight when you start the projects, and each partner obviously have different kind of interests. I mean, how much they're going to earn, how much. So I think that should be extremely clear. I think a good partnership also relies in having a very open, like you feel you are kind of in a safe space where you can make mistakes, where you can do stuff and nothing is going to happen. But I think good partnerships also develop through time. I don't know, probably now I have a partnership with one of my partners. It's more than 3 years, and I know what happens in any situation because we already lived that. But it's difficult to find a partner at the start that has this shared objectives that you have. Let's say the passion that guides doing it, it's also having something that is basically yours, right? It's like you're building something and you've been investing a lot of time, a lot of resources. That could be money, that could be but you are constantly having that as your priority, and sometimes that makes you lose some things, right? So I think the passion into doing it comes from having something that you shaped or you envision in a time and you're building it. I think for me at least that the gallery or each business has different like core ideas of what is a goal, right? And I really think, or I'm not into the idea that there is a massive goal that is going to make you like go through time. I think it's a process that is more adaptative. I mean, you have a mission, for example, the mission in the gallery might be, or it is actually, to promote the art and the artist. For that, we have to play in this industry, and I think once the strategies to achieve this will change. I mean, maybe last year we have one, this year we have another. We have I don't know, 5 years we want to be there, but we're still open that it couldn't happen. The important thing is that the idea that we have more emerging artists, that they show their work, that they have a good platform where to work, and that we are part of it is what I think guides in this moment that specific business, and keep it focused. Well, I think it's not that I have fear of doing a company actually, because when you, at least for me, when I start something, from the start, I know it could fail. I mean, and that doesn't give me fear of okay, this project is going to fail, because I think all the projects are going to be in that risk all the time. It was more information. I mean, every time the only, let's say, constraint I think it might not be prepared enough to make a decision, and how I contrast that decision is basically preparing myself better. So if I thought maybe I don't know how this worksheet, or I don't know how to make a financial decision, well, I go, I research, I take courses, I speak to people that have been in those situations, and that make me feel prepared. Usually, you realize that when you do this process, you are over prepared, and that sense gives you confidence. At least it gives me confidence. First, I have a lot. I don't see them now so much as failures, but I think I was very naive in choosing partnerships. I thought friends will be good partners, which usually doesn't happen. Or thinking about somebody, but somebody in certain situations. And usually, when I started a partnership, it was with people that I hang out well, that we had shared interest, and this is like, oh, it's easy because we have all these things in common. But what I've been learning through those failures is that you don't need somebody that is like you, but mostly some partner or a group of partnerships, because I have several partnerships as well, that they're really good at what they do. Maybe you don't get along well with all of them. I think that's even better sometimes, but that you are sure that they are good at the work they do, and they complement yourself in some ways, and that means, like, you have to accept that you are not good at certain things at the moment, and that somebody else will be a complement, and it's going to teach you how to do it, maybe, and you're going to learn in that environment. And I think that's the key part of if you're making a partnership. If you're going to make it alone, you have to be a very strong leader to get people involved in something without they having shares. What I've learned also, or I think in this kind of industry work, is if you have something valuable, that's very hard to retain talent, right? Because small companies are hard. It's hard because you have a budget constraint all the time. It's basically sharing that proportion into something that is tangible. So if I think that person is a value or an asset to my team, and I don't have maybe the economical capabilities to or financial, I will prefer them to make them partners and give them a share of what we are building, because I think it's going to be a long-term goal. I think that's one of the strategies that works the best. I think seeing other people that we consider in the model to strive. I mean, even if they are in the company or they left because they found something better, or for example, in this place that the artists have like a kind of a secure environment where they can create, and either do we? I think that is, and not about mostly about this, and it's also about how you define success. But it was when it started, let's say, expanding in an horizontal way, like having more people getting involved in the project because they cared about the project and not because they wanted to work as a company. In the art, it happens a lot. People want to work in the business because it looks like it's luxurious and everything. But it is not. It's just a regular business as other. But once you start creating the structure and then you start implementing, let's say, like values and philosophies of work, and seeing them having impact in people's lives, and that they feel more comfortable working, that they feel they have control in what they're doing, that they feel they can take decisions without asking somebody, and those decisions will be backed up by the team, and that they want to work with you even if maybe, or artists, maybe you cannot offer now a platform. I think that's one of the biggest retribution, right? Like that it creates value, and that value permeates up or down, but it permeates somehow.
When you want to start a business, the important part is not fearing that you won't be achieving your goal. Because if you do that, you won't be capable of surviving. If you are an entrepreneur, you will be facing a lot of difficult phases. And if you are not passionate about what you are doing, you will lose faith. At the beginning, it will be difficult, but there will be a point where you will be stable and probably continue growing. It is also important to know that choosing the right partner to work with is the most difficult part, because they will be the ones helping in all your entrepreneur journey. And sometimes friends are not the best option because interests change and probably you will break up from them.
Being an entrepreneur at the beginning may look scary because it involves a lot of uncertainty, and the possibility of failure is something that will always intimidate people. You need to have determination and resilience to face all the challenges that may arise in the path of growing. But if you're passionate about what you're doing, you will put all your effort and heart into making the enterprise successful. After Francisco's interview, I realized that you need to choose wisely the people that will surround you in your journey, because these may be the people that will lead to success or bring failure to the project. Sometimes not necessarily your friends are the best partners, but the people that have that inner spark of passion as you do, and that have the energy to face all the challenges that may arise, are the ones that you want to choose as your partners.